Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan, and today our guest is Pat Donnelly, who was on our MIA baseball beat last year. And Pat, it's exciting to be starting baseball season.
Yeah, it's good to be back. You know, the weather's getting warmer, at least, last week it was, maybe not so much today. But, it's nice to have spring to look forward to, baseball, golf, all this and that. So, yeah, glad to be out of winter.
Yeah, theoretically, the weather's getting warmer, but today's brutal.
Hit or miss.
But yeah, so you're coming off hockey. So you kind of do three sports. You're like a seasonal beat guy for us. You do soccer in the fall, hockey in the winter, and baseball in the spring. So it's kind of out of the frying pan into the fire. How did you enjoy the hockey season this year?
Yeah, hockey was great. It was, the last month, 3 weeks have been pretty busy just because, NEPSAC does their playoffs all in a week, so it's a mad dash. And then MIA, you spend all Sunday at TD Garden for all the championships. But no, it was fun. It was a great season, a lot of great players, some cool stories. Glad to be switching over now after a little bit of downtime, which was nice.
Yeah, so we'll stay on the NEPSAC theme for this podcast. We're going to be previewing the NEPSAC season, the prep baseball scene around New England. There's a lot of really good conferences, and NEPSAC in general, I feel like, has gotten so much stronger in the last few years. I think it was affected by the pandemic, where people were looking for extra years of eligibility just to kind of extend their high school career and extend their recruiting window. And especially now with so many players coming and getting recruited through the transfer portal, that prep school scene is so much more important. I was thinking about it last night, and I don't know if you've seen this at all in hockey, but the way that the prep school coaching has gone in the last few years, it's almost more like college now because, a lot of the coaches are working the admissions office and helping out with financial aid packages and scholarship money. And college baseball has almost become like professional baseball now, where with the NIL deals and paying players and things like that. Have you seen, I wondered last night if there would be a jump in prep coaches going up to the college level. Is that something that you've seen at all with hockey?
Not so much in the last 2 years that I've been doing this. What I have, this is anecdotally, there have been a couple coaches that have come from the college ranks to the prep schools.
Okay.
Liz Keedy Norton was the interim at Milton this year. She was recently the head coach at Dartmouth. Kirsten Matthews is at St. Mark's. She was an assistant at BU. So I feel like I've noticed that a little more. But it's sort of the same thing you mentioned about where you're looking at any coach's, bio in the school website, just, learning a little bit about them, and they're all in the admissions office and doing all this and that. So.
Yeah, a lot of these schools have rules that you have to work for the school as a full-time gig at the prep level. The coaching changes, I guess we'll start with the ISL, as the conference to kind of, it drums up a lot of interest, of course, here around Boston. There are three new coaches in the ISL, Nobles, Brooks, and Governor's Academy have all changed coaches in the last year. So that'll be interesting to watch. Last year was the first year that there was an ISL postseason tournament. In the previous years, for whatever reason, I think it was, players leaving campus at the end of May, seniors graduating, things like that. They always just had a regular season championship and never had a postseason tournament. And that was really enjoyable to watch last year. St. Sebastian's and Lawrence Academy ended up facing off in the championship game. But overall, I thought it added a lot to the season because when teams when it was just a regular season championship, basically once you lost your second league game, you were out of the hunt for a championship. So it kind of made the second half of the season not as exciting, not as high stakes. So I really liked how they added the ISL tournament. And it was something that I think will be great going into year two now that everybody has kind of seen it play out.
Yeah, I remember going to that Lawrence and Rivers game for the semifinals, and that was a nice back and forth game, pretty exciting. And exactly like you said, it just keeps you in it for the rest of the season, and you have something to play for the whole way through.
Yeah, and you mentioned Lawrence. I think they have a really good chance of being back there this year. They have a starting pitcher in John Payon, who may be among our high school and prep players. I think he's probably the top pro prospect. He tops out at like 96, 97. He was at the area code games last summer, and he caught I think he was at 97 on the radar gun. And they have a transfer that you really need to watch out for this year. Logan Forgy. He is he's from Ontario, I think. He's from Canada. He's a left-hander. And I know Chris Margraf, the Lawrence Academy coach, is just as excited about him as John. And if they get that 1-2 punch, a lot of these prep schedules, you play Wednesday, Saturday. So if you have those two aces that you rotate, John Paon's going to Duke. Logan Forgy, who knows, he'll probably have plenty of recruiting opportunities, especially with all the scouts that are going to come out and watch Lawrence Academy. I think Lawrence, could be the favorite to repeat in the ISL. But I don't know if that's St. Sebastian's is so hard to overlook too. They won it last year in the championship game. Gavin Wainwright actually got up on the mound and outdueled John Paon. It was a really low-scoring game. I think it was 2-1. But Gavin Wainwright was unbelievable for the entire postseason, the regular season last year. I think he allowed 1 earned run the entire season.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. He pitched about 30 innings on the year, including the postseason. He was shutting down, every big opponent that he faced. So it's tough to bet against him, but it was so unexpected. He's just going to be a sophomore this year. And even when he was with NEB for his travel team, he really wasn't playing a ton, or pitching a ton, I should say. He was playing middle infield. So it kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, St. Sebastian's should be right there too, I would think, this year.
Yeah. And one of the things with Lawrence Academy that is a little interesting, like, you got the hockey and baseball crossover, is Laz Giardina, who pitched well in that semis game I went to last year, and has been a big contributor on their hockey team. They almost didn't have him this year. He was in the BCHL playing junior hockey. Wasn't really working out. He came back to play at Lawrence in the prep season, and here he is in baseball season.
Wow, yeah, I didn't even know that. And they have a few other guys. Jordan Henriquez is their shortstop. He was a stud for them last year. He's going to go to Dayton University, so he's a D1 prospect. And then I should mention St. Sebastian's. I already touched on them. They have Brett Gallo behind the plate, who is a stud. He's committed to Northeastern. I saw him. I did a story on kind of off-season strength training going into this season, and he was working out hard. He looks big and ready to go for this season. So look out for St. Sebastian's and Lawrence to get there. Again, you never want to overlook Belmont Hill. They've been competitive in the ISL for a long time, and they're going to be right back there this year. Brian Sayo is a junior outfielder who's committed to College of Charleston. That's a D1 program. Cooper Tarley is also a senior outfielder who's committed D1, College of William and Mary. I did want to mention Tabor Academy because they have 3 big-time Division I recruits, and that makes for a good formula, I guess, in the ISL. Dean Gobel, he's an outfielder catcher for Tabor Academy. He's going to UMass Amherst. Chris Kluber is committed to UMass Lowell. He's a senior right-handed pitcher and third baseman. And then Ben Prince, who ended up last year, I think he won Underclassman of the Year, Underclass Prospect of the Year for Tabor Academy. He was an ISL standout last year, and he's committed to University of Maine. He'll be at shortstop this year, right in the middle infield. So the ISL, you never know what's going to happen. Like I said, 3 new coaches. Last year, our first-year coach at St. Sebastian's, Matt Duffy, really had a turnaround and led his team to that title. So, if I were to make any predictions, I kind of like St. Sebastian's and Lawrence Academy meeting again in the championship series, but you never know. And with the ISL, it does get crazy every year. Yeah,
especially when you bring in the tournament format, one game take all. It's one of the things we talk about so much in hockey. I think it's Tim Whitehead at KUA is always saying, teenagers are unpredictable. You just never know. But moving on to the CNEPSBL.
Central New England.
Yeah.
Yep.
Handful of teams to highlight here. You start off with Deerfield, who has a couple MIA standouts doing post-grad seasons.
Yeah, for sure. In the Central New England, Deerfield won it last year, and they may have, I can't remember if it was Avon Old Farms or Deerfield who ended up as our number 1 seed in our final prep rankings. But Deerfield is loaded this year. We heard from a coach, Tyler Wasliger from Westminster Academy on our Westminster School on a recent podcast, and he likes Deerfield Academy as the number 1 seed in New England this year. Like you said, Caleb Allen is a guy who came over from Oakmont. You probably remember him. He helped lead his team to the D3 championship MIA last year. Tate Banish is a Wellesley transfer, and he's going to have an opportunity to play at Tufts Aiden Barclay came over from St. Sebastian, so he's going to do a PG year. He's got that championship experience. Connor Nemec is one of their leading pitchers last year. He was on the mound in some of those big Central New England games. He's committed to Cornell, as is Aiden Barclay. So Deerfield Academy bringing a lot of D1 prospects back. They're getting some guys from MIA schools. Really good job recruiting. The one thing that you have to keep an eye on in that Central New England League is Phillips Andover, because Kevin Graber is back as the head coach of that program. And when he was there, he spent 2 years in the last 2 years in the Chicago Cubs organization. But when he was at Andover prior to that, they were just the number one team in New England for like the better part of 5 or 6 years. He's got that base running style that, his guys are just always moving on the base pass and taking that extra base. He's really good at kind of grooming these pitchers. Robert Brown is a Penn State commit, and he's been up to 93, 94 on their spring training trip this year. And then Marek Kristofalski is a Elon commit, another D1 program. So I'd keep an eye on Andover under Kevin Graber. They don't often finish outside of that first place spot in their league, but Deerfield is going to be really tough. And then, of course, at Dexter, they're always loaded with that high-end talent. Last year they had Matt Conte, who was on the cover of our spring edition. He ended up at Wake Forest. He was a pro prospect. This year they have 3 really good, experienced D1 prospects among, a lot of underclassmen who are going to end up being D1 players. Gabe Malloret is a BC commit. Hard to believe he's a senior. I remember him. He started at Catholic Memorial. His freshman year ended up transferring to Dexter. But he's had a really good career. He's going to be one of the top prospects going into this year's draft at the high school and prep levels. Chase Hartzell is a BC commit. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's been on the mound for some of these Central New England Championship games over the last few years. And then Sachin Gopal is a United States Naval Academy commit. A lot of those guys end up at Salisbury, it seems like. They have kind of a feeder system to United States Naval Academy type players. But he'll be at Dexter this year. So they're going to be really tough, as always.
Yeah, speaking of Salisbury, they're one of the teams to watch in Western New England this year.
Yeah, I think you always have to start with Salisbury. They've won the last few Western New England titles, and they're loaded again this year. Behind the plate, you've got Thomas O'Connell. He's a University of Virginia commit who has been probably the top prospect in his class in New England, at least. I should say the top handful, because we've got a few other guys that we've just mentioned. John Paone is way up there, too. But Thomas O'Connell could be a pro prospect. He's committed to University of Virginia, which is obviously a great place to get an education. So he could be a college guy. But they have a lot of D1 guys. Michael Fiatarone. I don't know how you pronounce that, Fiatarone. He's going to Bryant. Central Connecticut State is Bryce Meter. Stonehill's Sean Conley. Caleb Traylor is University of Missouri. And Matt Chirambolo is University of Maine. So right there, they have 6 D1 prospects that are going to make them really tough. Like I said, you always start with Salisbury, but Cheshire Academy this year is loaded. I remember talking to their coach, Anthony Giano, last year. We were doing a column, in the fall. It was just guys who had eclipsed 90 miles an hour on the mound throughout the spring and summer seasons. And Cheshire had like 5 or 6 different guys that threw 90 plus. Control is always the issue at this level, but just to have that kind of arm talent. They have Tyler Stone, who's going to be back. I was surprised to see he's back. It seems like he's been an ace for them for like a few years now. He's going to go to Virginia Tech. University of Notre Dame commit Garrett Snyder, big first baseman, pitcher. He throws hard. And then there's Dan Margulies and Will Margulies, and they're same last name. They both throw 90 plus on the mound, and they're unrelated. So that's a good recruiting story, at least for Anthony Giano. And then Chase Mandela is going to go to Bentley. He's their shortstop. He's the middle infielder. So those 2 schools, and then you always in the Western New England have some other good teams. I know Canterbury School is going to be really tough this year. They have a lot of really good prospects. Tyler Harmony is committed to Northeastern. Tyler Kissling is committed to UMass Lowell. Logan Martell is committed to Rutgers. So anytime You have 3 D1 prospects. We've kind of been through this with a couple of programs here. It's just so many D1 prospects at the prep level.
Yeah. And moving on to the Founders, Avon Old Farms was right up there with Deerfield at the end of the season for us. What do you make of Avon?
Yeah, they're going to be loaded again. Avon Old Farms, the last few years, they haven't lost too many games. I want to say like over the last 3 years, they might have lost like a total of 10 games. They're really tough. Their rival Loomis, I think, won 2 or 3 years ago. Avon Old Farms has at least won last. I think they won the last 2 Founders League championships. But they're loaded. Cole Raymond, maybe the top pitching prospect in the state of Connecticut at the prep level in terms of pro prospect aspirations. He was throwing 95, 96 last year from the mound. He's committed to Georgia Tech, but we'll see what his velocity looks like this spring. He could certainly be a pro prospect. And I do think pro scouts will be on the Avon Old Farms campus this spring, looking at guys like Matt DiFilippo. He's a junior 2026 prospect who's a right-handed pitcher. He's committed to BC, but he gets his velocity up. You never know about his pro prospects aspirations. Max Karate is a Sacred Heart commit. He's their junior shortstop. And then Owen Callahan is a senior right-handed pitcher who's on the mound, I think, to close out that Founders League championship last year. He's committed to the College of Holy Cross. So keep an eye on those guys next year. This spring, they're probably the favorites to repeat in the Founders League, I would think.
Yeah, you just go up and down the list of all the college commits on Avon's roster. It's not hard to imagine they'll be popular with the scouts this spring.
Absolutely, yeah. They have, and then David Posey. He's a senior right-handed pitcher. He's going to be going to the Naval Academy. Connor Jernigan is going to be at William & Mary. Richie Klosek is going to Loyola Marymount. So it's just a lot of, college players. It's almost like going and watching a college team. I did a column in the fall, just places if you love baseball, places to check out this spring. And Avon Old Farms was definitely on that list if you like seeing, D1 players on prep fields.
Yeah. And then one more team to highlight in the Founders, they're Avon's rival, Loomis Chaffee. What do you make of them? Yeah,
so I want to say they're maybe like a year or 2 away. They have Jacob Bedars, who's one of the best prospects in his class. I think he's a 2027. They do have a couple of D1 guys. Will Vieira is a Fordham commit. Hudson Schmidt's a really good prospect as a catcher. I think he'll end up being a D1 commit. Brady Wynn is a right-handed pitcher, junior. So again, he could be a D1 commit. Loomis, I feel like they were loaded like 2-3 years ago. They've kind of had a transition here, and they could certainly come back this year and compete with Avon Old Farms. But I want to say they're about a year or 2 away from really making some noise and potentially, getting up to the top of our top 10 power rankings.
Yeah, a couple more to highlight. The FAA, Hamden Hall, what has your eye here?
Yeah, Hamden Hall, they've been so dominant in the FAA over the last couple of years. They just graduated Gavin Lyons last year, who I want to say his high school record on the mound was like 24-0. I don't think he ever took a loss in his entire career. So Hampton Hall is coming off a few straight FAA championships. They have some D1 prospects too. 3 D1 commits, and Amato Civitello, he's a shortstop. He's going to UConn. Logan Carbonneau is also committed to UConn. He's a senior first baseman. And then Nick Scalia is a right-handed pitcher committed to the University of Rhode Island. So, 3 really big prospects for Hamden Hall. I'd like to see them, or I would probably predict that they're going to repeat in the FAA.
Yeah, and then Independence AP, Austin Prep, they were on one of our covers last year. What do you like about them?
Yeah, so Austin Prep is loaded, and they've had a really great transition when you look at over the last 2 seasons. I think they had like a 20-game win streak spanning over 2 seasons. Last year, they were right up at the top of our power rankings by the end of the year. I think they were in the top 5, maybe the top 3. We know Jonathan Pollard's always going to have that team ready to go and playing well. They're loaded again. They have Bradley McCafferty, who's one of the top prospects in the class of 2026. He's committed to Duke University. He's going to be behind the plate this year. And then Chase Edgar is committed to Elon in the class of 2026, and Ryan Mareshi is committed, or he's not committed, but I think he's on Team Massachusetts. He was a Team Massachusetts selection junior outfielder. So look for Austin Prep. They're going to be loaded again. They're going to have another one of those seasons where they're 18-2 or 20-0. the shame for them, I know that they've been trying to get into a conference or a league in the NEPSAC. I want to say they tried to get in Central New England. Didn't have it. A lot of these conferences are kind of set with an even number of teams, and they're not always looking to add to it. But Austin Prep would be a great add for any conference that's looking to add, a top-tiered program with Division I prospects. It'll make it a little easier for them to make their schedule once they finally get in. But Winchendon School is another good independent program. They're loaded again this year. Ryan Ruggiero is a junior outfielder who's probably going to end up being a D1 guy. Ryan Burke, senior right-handed pitcher. He's going to be at Lafayette. CJ Jones is a senior outfielder who's committed to George Washington University. And then Thomas Fabo, who might be their best prospect, is a senior third baseman. He could end up at UMass Lowell.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned with AP there, just all the guys you listed off, all juniors. So a little bit of a recipe for sustained success going into next year too.
Yeah, and I think they're just going to continue to churn out winning seasons. Jonathan Pollard really knows what he's doing there. He has a great recruiting strategy, and then developmentally too. These guys seem to get better and better at Austin Prep. He keeps his pitching staff healthy because they're so deep. Austin Prep, definitely, if you look at that transition they made, they won an MIA D3 championship back in, all right, let's see, we're in 2025 now, so it would be like 2022. Then 2023, 2024, they had a record of like 40-5 over 2 seasons, and the transition to NEPSAC. So it's really been unbelievable how, I guess, gracefully they've made that transition, because it's a hard one to make when you're all of a sudden facing off. We've been naming D1 prospects in all these prep programs, and Austin Prep has held up really well against those teams. Yeah,
absolutely. And then any other lingering thoughts, teams, players, if you look at EIL, Lakes, or anywhere else?
Yeah, Pingree has a lot of good prospects this year. I'd keep an eye on them in the EIL. And then Lakes Region Vermont Academy is always a tough team, and they have good prospects. And St. Paul's in the Lakes region is also a team to keep an eye on. They have some really good D1 prospects. I don't know if they're necessarily committed yet, but I think by the end of this year, the spring and summer, you'll look and see 2 or 3 of those guys committed to D1 programs. But yeah, if I'm doing my top 10 preseason top 10, I think at the top of the list, I'd probably have to go Avon Old Farms, just because they're so loaded with D1 prospects. Deerfield's right there. I'd probably put them 2. And then you got to put like Phillips Andover's got to be in the top 5 with Kevin Graber back. Austin Prep, put them in the top 5. So there's 4 right there. And then I'd probably go Lawrence Academy 5 as an ISL representative. Dexter's got to be in that top 10. So that, put them 6. Oh, excuse me. No. Salisbury School's got to be in the top 5. I would put Salisbury School, somewhere in the 3 to 5 range. And then Cheshire Academy's in there too. Canterbury School's in there. So many good programs. We never see this many D1 programs. It just seems to get better and better. D1 commits, guys committed to D1 programs. So keep an eye on this Prep League season. It's going to be really fun to watch, and I'm really looking forward to covering it. Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States, while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a Netting Professionals representative today, visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's Netting Professionals.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students can earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Yeah, so now, before we end it, let's go to our producer, David Yaz, to do our 3 up, 3 down segment.
3 up, 3 down.
Yes, welcome back to 3 Up, 3 Down, where I lob 3 softballs, 3 cupcakes to our panelists here. They are unprepared for these questions. We've done this once before, I believe, but we're going to add a little flavor to it. We're going to create 3 fictional baseball movies. We all love baseball movies. And we need to cast the heroine, and we need to cut the hero and the heroine, I guess. Come up with a plot and stuff like that. I'm going to give you, and Dan, we'll start with you. I'm going to give you 3 possible titles. You get to pick the title. Okay, title number 1, Caught Looking. Title number 2, High Cheese. Title number 3, Backdoor Slider. Which one would you like to be a movie?
I'd go Caught Looking.
Caught Looking. Okay. Now, Pat, we'll throw it over to you. Give us a general idea of what the plot would be for Caught Looking.
Ooh.
I'm really putting him on the spot here. Doesn't have to be anything fancy.
You could be, or maybe like star player at the top of his game. Maybe a little bit of a Tiger Woods scenario. I know he's hot in the news these days. You know, at the top of your game, top of the world in the sport. And then, you know, you get caught looking some nefarious acts outside of your marriage take you down.
Extramarital affair.
Yeah,
He's
caught looking.
He's literally caught looking, and he has to deal with the turmoil. I like it. Anything you want to add, Dan?
Yeah, I was gonna go a similar direction, like some type of romance where this guy is like, you know, caught looking, he's distracted by some off the field romance, and maybe all of a sudden the significant other kind of helps him get his head on straight to refocus, and that next thing you know, he's like hammering the ball.
Could be an homage to The Natural.
Yeah, I was thinking more like that Cape League one with Freddie Prinze.
Oh. Summer Catch.
Yes. Yeah.
Not a good film.
No.
Well, we asked artificial intelligence what it would do if it had to create a movie called Caught Looking, and I just want you guys to tell me what you think of this. Caught Looking stars Paul Rudd as Danny Russo, a washed-up minor league umpire. It also stars Zoe Kravitz as Jules Medina, a data-driven Major League Baseball scout. And finally, J.K. Simmons as Coach Hal Grinder Graham, a gruff high school coach. A disgraced former umpire takes a job coaching at his old high school, where he clashes with a rising female scout who wants to revolutionize the game with analytics. Together, they uncover a hitting pitching talent with mysterious paths and a deadly curveball. It's just a lot going on there. It sounds like they tried to mash The Rookie together with Moneyball, maybe.
Yeah, I've never heard of an umpire and a scout clashing. That's kind of a weird thing to play. Like, scouts usually just sit there and observe, and the umpires usually are arguing with parents or coaches.
What I'm confused about that plot is where J.K. Simmons comes into this.
Yeah, he's the high school coach who, I don't know. Yeah, I think this needs to go back for a rewrite. Yeah. The imagined theme song is called Strike 3, Don't Blink, performed by the Killers. Shouldn't it have been performed by Blink 182? Don't Blink. All right.
You'd think so.
All right, you get to pick the second movie. Pat, here are your choices. Can of Corn, The Hot Corner, or Frozen Rope?
I'll do Can of Corn.
Can of Corn. Okay. Any thoughts, either one of you, on what that might be about? So, Can of Corn, of course, is an easy catch, but I feel like we're going something like this is Farmtown baseball or something, Sandlot baseball.
That's what I was thinking, you know, set in Iowa, kind of like a Field of Dreams almost thing. Yeah. But Can of Corn, easy catch, I would say. I don't know. I'm thinking like romance again, where, you know, this guy has like an easy time getting into a relationship with a girl. It sparks him to like get hot at the plate. I don't know. It's kind of a repeat on the last one.
We got to start there. Yeah. Anything to add, Pat?
I was thinking maybe if you want to go like Little League route, maybe like I don't know, one of those types of movies where you got the kid in left field who like just can't catch any sort of fly ball, and you know It's his struggle all year long. He can't catch the can of corn.
Right.
And then they make it to the championship, game on the line, final out, pop fly to him. Can he do it?
Can he do it? Yeah. I like how you left the question hanging in the air, like young Timmy Lupus and the Bad News Bears, of course. Artificial Intelligence said the can of corn would star Jack Black as Randy Cornbread Collins, a former beer league outfielder, Octavia Spencer as Mayor Loretta Thomas, the small town mayor, and Jacob Tremblay, I don't know who that is, but Jacob Tremblay as Ethan, Randy's baseball-obsessed nephew. When the local rec league folds, a washed-up outfielder, Jack Black, and his nephew rally the town to bring back baseball and their sense of community. Along the way, Randy learns there's more to life than easy catches and cold beer. Okay. That's a little better than the last one.
Yeah.
Theme song Fly Again, performed by Brandi Carlile. All right. We might have a winner there. Who knows? There is a movie coming out, like an independent movie about like a beer league, a baseball beer league. Have you guys seen the trailer for this? I'll have to look that up.
Not.
That's not good podcasting. All right. Well, let's move on to the final three. And Dan, we'll go back to you.
Okay.
Would you like the final film to be called Around the Horn, The Show, or The Mendoza Line?
Ooh, I'll go Mendoza Line.
I'm glad you went that way.
Yeah.
I've got some interesting stuff. So, I guess I should just say, for our younger listeners who might not know, Mario Mendoza was an infielder known, unfortunately, for having a batting average that was always right around 200. So if you dip below 200, now you're below the Mendoza line. But if we had to do a modern-day reimagining, or it could be the Mario Mendoza story, which, nothing against that. Any thoughts from either one of you on the Mendoza line?
I have it as an aging minor league prospect. He's approaching 30. His career's probably going to be over soon if he doesn't get it together. He's hitting like 198 at the All-Star break. People are starting to tell him like, "Hey, what's life after baseball look like for you?" And then all of a sudden he takes off and eventually gets the call to the big leagues by the end of the movie.
Nice. Anything to add, Pat? I like it.
I think that's a pretty good plot. The only other one could be a nice little docuseries on Mario Mendoza.
It could be. I like both of those ideas, actually. So what you guys missed was the obvious one. Who could play a cameo in the movie, of course, but Mario Mendoza himself. He's 73 years old now, still around.
Oh, wow.
All right, so I told artificial intelligence to include that. This is what they came up with. The Mendoza line stars Michael Pena as Luis Navarro, a charming but struggling utility infielder whose batting average is hovering around 198. Dan, so far, is following your idea.
Yeah.
It also stars Aubrey Plaza as Rachel Stern, a sabermetrics analyst hired to help the team get out of last place. Was this minor league? No, I guess this is MLB. Okay. And finally, Gabriel Iglesias as Manny Navarro, Luis's older brother, and his constant hype man and part-time Uber driver. Is a special cameo by Mario Mendoza as himself, now 74, giving hitting tips at a community center in El Paso. All right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the themes, they didn't do the theme song. I think it should be by Los Lobos or someone like that. The Mendoza line. All right. We've got a winner here. Any final thoughts, guys?
I think Aubrey Plaza is a fellow Delaware native, like myself.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll have to Google that. But yeah, I think I heard that she's a Delaware native.
So now Delaware is famous for Dan Guttenplan, Aubrey Plaza, and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And not much else. Sorry, sorry about that. Tremendous job, guys. We've got, I'll walk down the aisle with you when we win our Oscar for the Mendoza line. And Mario, you can come too. Back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
Yeah, we should make sure anybody who's stealing these ideas from us is going to have to pay royalties.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to Pat Donnelly for joining us on the Base Path Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe to the Base Path Podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. The Base Path Podcast is a Siemens Media production.